The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason along with Sue Ballou, Sue Kolinsky. What is going on?
I've cut a lot of my hair off. I don't know if you can see it.
No, I can't see. Let me see. Oh, yeah, it looks good. For those of you on YouTube, you can see, Sue. That's very nice. What were you thinking?
And I wanted to cut all my hair off.
Oh, that's it. That's it. Okay, as simple as that.
Well, Tom, it's so funny. Tom says to me one day, and he's been saying this actually for a while. He says, when are you going to, cut your hair? You should cut your hair shorter, And I was like, what am I, like an old lady? I'm going to cut my hair shorter. So, when I first started dating him, my hair was shorter. And he says, when are you going to get some long hair coming my way? And
is that so he's tough. When it's short, he wants it long. When it's long, he wants it short.
Well, now he likes it short. So,
right,
we'll see how many years it'll take for him to ask me to grow my hair longer.
Well, you got it going on. You look great. And I'm doing the show from the beach today.
God, it looks very windy there.
It is windy. That tree keeps blowing, doesn't it?
I'm afraid it's going to fall on you.
So crazy. So, we're going to do some Sue's News today, which we haven't done in a while. We haven't done Sue's News in a while.
Yeah.
We need to do more of that.
Yeah.
So what do you got cooking?
Well, I thought since it happened today, and this isn't going to air today, I wanted to just address the fact that
Tina Turner
passed away.
Yeah.
And she was 83.
83, which is great.
She lived a long life. And then people still kind of like, why'd she die at 83? And it's like, she was 83.
Yeah, but 83 is a pretty, 83 is not as old as it used to be.
I know. It's, like, I think back on like when people died at 25.
Right.
And people are like, oh, God, he lived such a long life. And I was like, really? He was 25.
Although I was pointed out to me that the life expectancy of the average American is 77. So Tina did beat that.
Yes.
But what an amazing life and what an amazing story and just incredible. If you ever saw the movie, What's Love Got to Do with It? Angela Bassett is brilliant. Lawrence Fishburne as Ike Turner is fantastic. And you get that whole story about how she was willing to leave everything behind, all of the publishing rights and all the music and all the songs, Ike and Tina Turner, and say, I just want to be free. She emancipated herself and she rebuilt her career. It's an amazing story.
Right. I have to tell you something that a comedian did years ago.
Okay.
His name is Bob Shaw. He doesn't do stand-up anymore, but he was from the era of when Larry David and Richard Lewis first started doing stand-up. Okay. So he was in that crowd. Brilliant comedian. So one night, I don't know if he was at a comedy club or he opened for her, but he was hanging out with her somewhere in a bar, maybe. Okay. And he answered the phone and he looked at her and he said, it's Ike.
Oh, no.
The phone.
That is so funny.
Yeah, she laughed.
Yeah, good. Did you ever see her live?
I never saw her live.
We saw her live right around What's Love Got to Do with It. That album came out. That single was gigantic. I was a DJ at that point. It would have been 1985 or something like that. 84. Private Dancer was the name of the album. She did a great, Private Dancer is a great song. She did a great song she covered Let's Stay Together.
Right.
The Al Green song, which was just amazing. It's an incredible album, but we got to do promote a concert with her and got to meet her, got to deal with a little bit in person. Mm-hmm. Unbelievably, the word that comes to mind is humble. She was very humble. Because here she is. She's this great performer. She had those skirts that were all like spangly or whatever you would call it, and she'd be kicking in the air and all that stuff. And then you meet her in person. She's very humble, very subdued.
Right. Well, it was just amazing to me that the way she moved on stage in the outfits that she wore when she was a much older woman.
Yeah.
I mean, she did it with stilettos.
Yeah. She was in her 50s when I saw her, and she was spectacular.
Yeah. Yeah. So just something else that I just have to say.
Okay.
So, all right. 83 years old.
That's a great number. Good number.
It is. It's a great number. So, a couple of days ago, and I do want to get into our favorite, female rockers.
Okay.
But Paris Hilton, I don't know if you read about it, but Paris Hilton's dog died the other day.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay. So the headline is Paris Hilton's dog dead at 23.
No.
But just the way they wrote it. It's like,
but no, the part that jumps out at me was her dog really 23?
23.
Oh my God, that dog lived a fantastic life. That is
unbelievable.
Sophie is going to be 17 on the 4th of July, and she's, held together with glue and tape at this point. I mean, 23 is amazing.
Yeah, so she was in her 20s when she first got the dog.
I think she's probably one of those little purse dogs, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, what fits in her. They used to be fashionable. You could carry around a dog in your burqa bag.
Right. Well, they call them teacup chihuahuas, I believe they're called.
Yeah, annoying. They were, I love dogs, but when they're used as a fashion accessory,
yes,
I just find it distasteful.
Yes. When you're wearing your dog, it's a little bizarre.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, all right, I'm going to start with I have around.
Oh, we're going to do what? 3?
5, maybe 3, 5, whatever you want to do.
Let's do 3. I came up with 3 greatest female rockers of all time in honor of Tina Turner.
Okay. So, Joan Jett.
Joan Jett, Blackhearts.
Just badass. One of the early rockers.
Yeah.
Who, great voice, just badass. I mean, she was probably one of the most badass female rock singers of all time, I think.
I am in agreement. That's another. I love talking about music from my DJ days, but that was I Love Rock and Roll was a gigantic hit. All right, so it's hard to define rocker. Okay, so I have put on my list, and you can dispute it if you want.
Mm-hmm.
I've put Annie Lennox on my list, who I think, now, is she a rocker? I don't know. She's got that sisters are doing it for themselves. She's got like a lot of that stuff, a lot
Sweet
of
Dreams,
stuff, Sweet Dreams and all that. I love Annie Lennox. I saw her at the Hollywood Bowl. She opened for Sting. What a show that was. Annie Lennox and Sting at the Bowl. But I love Annie Lennox from the days of I never understood it, but Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, which was their first single. The video has this cow in it. Never understood why. No explanation. Still, I'm 58 years old, still wondering what the fucking cow is doing in the Annie Lennox video. But I put Annie Lennox on the list.
Okay. Yeah, there definitely is somewhat of a crossover with certain artists, because I have Bonnie Raitt. And
Bonnie Raitt she's definitely a rocker.
She's a rocker, but she's kind of a blues singer.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my favorite albums that she did was Nick of Time.
Yeah.
And
I think she won the Grammy for that.
Yeah, she won a lot of Grammys that year. Probably album, and I think, maybe Nick of Time. I don't know if she won it for that song. But there was a song on that record that was Have a Heart. And that was during a time where I was on and off with Kenny Ober.
Okay, right.
So this was a period where I was not with him.
Yep.
And I went to Madison Square Garden with 3 of my girlfriends. And, we sit down, we were smoking pot and, feeling great. And it was right before the concert started. And I had an idea that he was cheating on me with this particular woman who I didn't really know that well, but I did meet her once.
Right.
And I turn around and I see her sitting behind me.
Okay.
And then I look over and Kenny comes and sits next to her. And
really? This is at that,
yes. So at the concert, all I could think about is I cannot believe he's sitting behind behind me with a woman he cheated on me with.
Oh my
and
God.
We're not together anymore. And that song, Have a Heart, was such a statement on our relationship.
Yeah.
Because it was like, basically, you don't have the balls to just let me go.
That's crazy.
And, that was really the story of our relationship.
But you have a positive association with Bonnie Raitt because you happened to be at a concert when you saw Kenny there with another woman?
No. It's not that I have a positive memory of association with her. It's just that I love Bonnie Raitt and I've always loved her. This was just a story about, what happened that night. And and I knew that song was going to play. Yeah. Because that was her new album.
Right.
And when the song played, Kenny put his hand like on my shoulder just to kind of like I know this is a song that we've listened to a lot together.
Oh God.
And it was like, oh my God. And my girlfriends are looking at me like, are you okay? Do you want to leave? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to leave,
Right.
But it was just a bizarre evening.
That's crazy. Well, I did yoga with Bonnie Raitt.
You did yoga with a lot of people.
Yeah. No, I did yoga with Bonnie Raitt in Mill Valley when I was living up in San Francisco. I never had the balls to walk up and say, hey, Bonnie, huge fan. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Huge fan.
Sometimes it's better left to just like not say anything to people.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like, just let them be normal and be in the yoga class with you or wherever you are.
Right.
And just, and not call attention to it.
Well, that's the way it did turn out. We call that turtling. Like, have we talked about turtling on this show?
I don't think so.
We have on my other show. So the idea is that, when you walk into a crowded room and there are people everywhere and maybe there's somebody famous, you just turtle. Like you go into your shell and you're afraid to talk to anybody. So I'm determined to never turtle again. Like, I am going to walk into a party. I'm going to introduce myself to whoever I want to. I'm going to have conversations. It's not going to be small talk. It's going to be medium talk. And I strongly believe that turtling is in my past.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really depends on, on the situation. I remember years ago, I went to Mexico with my family. We were in Tulum in this like really remote area in this like remote restaurant. And there was maybe 10 of us. And Sam Shepard was there with Jessica Lange and their family.
How cool.
And everyone in my family kept on turning around and looking at them. And I was like, will you stop staring at them? We are in one of the remotest areas of where we are.
Right.
And they are on vacation to be
trying
away
to be anonymous, right?
From people like you.
Yeah.
So stop looking at them. And it was embarrassing. I didn't even want to be like associated with my family.
Did you introduce yourself?
No.
Then you turtled.
I totally turtled. There was no way in the world I was going to go over and say, oh, hi. Oh, my name's Sue Klinsk. Oh, I did stand up, I mean, it's like, what am I going to say to them? Oh, I really, really, I love your work.
I love True West. It's an amazing play.
They're on vacation. Like they don't want to hear from me.
I don't know. As a semi-quasi sort of celebrity, I always advise people to walk up to me. Like, if you happen to recognize me, I am open for business. Just walk up to me, introduce yourself, like that.
There was one time, it was Candy Alexander was in that show, The Corner.
I remember
she
Candy
played
Alexander,
a junkie.
yeah.
And it was the most incredible performance I had ever seen of somebody being a junkie, because I dated a junkie and I was friends with junkies.
Right.
And she was so authentic. And I was at a nail salon in West Hollywood and she started to walk out and I went over to her and I said, I don't ordinarily do this, but I just have to stop you and tell you how amazing you are in this series. And she loved it. She looked at me and she said, wow, you made my day. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's nice. Well, you know what? I had a moment like this. Where I was at Junior's Deli, which used to be at Westwood and Pico. And I walked up to the counter at the same time as Louise Fletcher, who just actually passed away as well, played Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And all I said was, Oscar winners first. And she said, honey, that was a long time ago, but thank you. And that was a nice way to do it, a nice way to not turtle.
Right.
All right. So my number two.
Instead of saying age before, because.
Exactly. All right. So my number two is Pat Benatar.
Oh, okay.
Pat Benatar, tell you what, we used to do this thing called music testing. So you would take the hook of a song and it was call out research. And we had a whole department. You would call out and you'd play hooks of songs for people, and they would give them a score from 5 to 1. 5, they love it. 1, they hate it. So the best testing record of all time was Pat Benatar, Hit Me With Your Best Shot. Like, it got a 5 from everybody. So even though we were a top 40 station and it was from about 15 years before, we still played it because everybody loved it. By the way, worst testing song of all time? Weird. Tracy Chapman, Fast Car.
Really?
People hated that song. It got all ones in call out. And I love that record. I mean, it
was great. That song I think is amazing.
I
hear every now and then I hear it,
yeah.
You know, like a blast from the past. And I like, where is she? What is she doing?
I don't know what happened to any of these people, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Is Pat Benatar still with us? I think she is.
Oh, yeah. She's still performing.
Yeah. She's great. She's great. So she's number 2 on my list.
So Pat Benatar used to perform at Catch a Rising Star because, you know, back in the day at comedy clubs, they always opened with a singer.
Yeah, right.
And she was the house opening singing act at Catch. So this was, you know, way before she was famous. And Rick Newman, who owned the club, became her manager. So we were all like, you know, we were there,
right,
know, when she broke through and basically made it, which was pretty cool.
That is cool. Pat Benatar, she's great. You know, the song that sticks out for me is actually Love is a Battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the video for that one?
I'm trying to remember.
She was a waitress.
Ah, okay.
And she comes out of the restaurant and there are all these women dressed as waitresses and they're all dancers. And so it's the only video I can remember where Pat Benatar actually dances. It was sort of the Rhythm Nation era. So she's out there dancing and I love that video. Love that video.
Very cool. Grace Slick.
Oh, Grace Slick. Yeah. Jefferson something.
Jefferson Airplane.
Well, it was 2 things, right? Then it became Jefferson Starship.
Starship. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I mean, so many songs. I mean, Miracles is one of my all-time favorite Jefferson Airplane songs.
Yep.
Again, just cool. At a time where there weren't a lot of women, you know, heading a band.
Yeah.
And, early 70s, late 60s, early 70s.
Sure.
That was a great band. So,
yeah.
So Grace Slick is my second.
So my number 1. Pink. I love Pink. I've seen Springsteen in concert 3 times, U2 in concert 4 times, and Pink in concert 5 times. I think she's unbelievable. She's the only one. The last time we saw her was at what was then Staples and now Crypto.com Arena. And, you know, she's an acrobat. So she flies through the air while she's singing her music. And by the way, singing flawlessly, not singing to a track, hitting every friggin' note while she's upside down, like over my head at the arena. I just find her to be the most amazing. And her songwriting, I mean, so what? I'm a rock star, got my rock moves, and I can, you know, just everything about her. I love Pink.
Okay. My number 1 is Ann Wilson from Heart.
Oh, sure.
I was listening to a lot of her music today. She did a rendition of Stairway to Heaven, which was honoring Led Zeppelin at the Kennedy Center Honors. It was like haunting.
Yeah.
I mean, just her range was just... I don't know many female singers or just singers in general that have a range like she did and does. And that was, I don't know, it was like 8 years ago. And just watching her on stage with her sister. Her sister's like unbelievable guitar player.
Yep.
And that song, Crazy on You, her sister just like played guitar. It was just music for like a minute before Ann Wilson came out on stage with the first line of the song.
Cool.
And just, so she's my number one.
Okay. So what are your three?
Joan Jett, Grace Slick, and Ann Wilson.
Okay. And I go Annie Lennox, Pat Benatar, Pink.
Okay.
Got to go see Pink. She's at SoFi in August.
Okay.
You got to go see Pink.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, there's so many people that I really love that I've never seen, Yeah. And it's weird. It's weird to be a fan of people. And it's like, I just I don't know, just haven't gone.
Like, for example, I love Adele.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I'm ever going to get to see her in concert. I mean, the tickets are so friggin' expensive. It's like the price of a Super Bowl ticket to go see Adele. So I may not ever see her. I never got to see Whitney Houston.
Right.
I'll tell you, greatest singer-songwriter, arguably female of all time, Carole King. The Tapestry album was like this huge breakthrough. And it is a brilliant, and she's fantastic. And they made the musical about her, which is great.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I saw her, and when she's toured with James Taylor a bunch of times.
Sure.
And I saw them at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh,
that was phenomenal.
That's a great show.
Yeah, she wrote songs that I remember when I was in summer camp. What was the song about? It's Too Late, Baby.
Oh yeah, it's too late, baby.
No, it's too late. Oh, we really did try to make it. That song was the breakup letter.
Yeah.
That men and women gave to the people that they were breaking up with. They wrote out the lyrics and handed it to them because I can't say it any better or any clearer than this song. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that makes me think of a story. So when I went to Bowling Green, I had a very, very serious high school girlfriend, Emily Weber. Shout out to you if you're listening, Emily. Emily Weber, I was crazy in love with. Creative and interesting and beautiful and all these things. And we made a promise to each other that she was going to the University of Cincinnati. I was going to Bowling Green State University. And we promised that, we would stay together through it. And I did a terrible job at that. I did a terrible job at the staying together part. So we drifted apart, which you would expect. It was a high school relationship. But at the end of the first semester, I remember getting a letter from her. And it was all the lyrics to Phil Collins' Against All Odds, signed Emily. I was like, oh. But I'm dating this Alpha Z now because I was in high school then. But I still love Emily. Emily was great. She was my first love. My first love.
Yeah. And you were, what, 17, 18?
17, yes.
My first love, I was 14.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, junior high, 9th grade, junior high school. Roy Tunison. Can't shout out to him because he died.
Oh, sorry. Hail fellow well met, we say.
What's that?
We say hail fellow well met when someone passes away.
Oh, okay. So he was, junkie, but he was not a junkie when so I had a couple of junkie boyfriends. Yeah. So he was not a junkie when we were 14, but he was, just really cute. And he was, a little bit of a bad boy because that was kind of my MO. But when I was in 9th grade, every morning walking to my first class after homeroom, he and two of his friends were always kind of leaned up against the wall by like when I turned the corner, they were always standing there. And he was just I couldn't get over how cute he was. Right. So, he seemed kind of out of my league. I was like, there's no way in the world that he's ever going to go out with me. But I had such a crush on him. It was painful. And then I became friends with some of his friends. And then, of course, word gets out that I have a huge crush on him. So I was at a mutual friend's house. And I guess my friend planned to have me come upstairs into his bedroom. And then he went and got Roy and pushed Roy in the room, towards me. Like you're pushing you guys together? Yes. And then it was oh my God. And then trapping you in a room. And then he shut the door and left.
Yeah.
And I just kind of looked at Roy and I was like, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, is this real? Is this really happening? I'm actually going to go steady with him. And he asked me to go steady with him and we made out. And then, of course he broke my heart.
Did he?
Yeah, totally.
Now, when you say junkies, are you talking about guys with pills or
heroin?
Heroin?
Yes.
The heroin?
The big H.
Boy,
Yes.
I'll tell you what, that's scary.
Yeah, scary.
The heroin thing is crazy. The needle part of it is just insane. Like
totally insane.
I mean, junkies. So that's who you were dating.
So he became a junkie.
Oh, turned into one.
He turned into one. But one of his good friends who I started dating, it was end of high school, beginning of college. I graduated high school a year early because half of my friends were a year older than me.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't want to stay in high school without them. But I still had half of my friends who stayed.
Right.
So I was dating this guy, Ralph. Again, really cute. He was a surfer. He was friends with Tom.
Okay.
And I went away to college and he stayed in high school and during, my first year, I was there for, like a week or so. I thought I have to break up with him because I'm in college and we're going to be away from one another. And I want to have the full college experience. And if it turns out that we end up being together at some point, great. But so I break up with him. He's completely devastated. I didn't expect him to be as devastated as he was.
Right.
And he blamed me for the reason why he shot heroin for the first time.
Wait a minute. He says you're the reason he did heroin?
Well, yeah, he said the first time because he came up to see me. He came up to visit me.
Yeah.
And I broke up with him when he came up to visit me. And there was a mutual friend of ours who actually went to school with me.
Right.
And he was a year or two older and he lived in my dorm and he was a junkie. So instead of Ralph going home, he went and hung out with this guy and shot heroin with him for the first time and became a junkie. And I'm like, look, I am not taking responsibility.
You can't take the fall for that.
Yeah. But after my first year of college, when I came home, we started dating again. And
was he still a junkie?
I didn't know. I didn't know until much later that he shot heroin when he came up to visit me at school. Oh. So I go home and one of my friends said, I think you need to know this about Ralph. He's doing dope. And I said, seriously? Because he was a photographer. Like I said, he was a surfer. He had so much going on in his life. He was very, very talented. And he actually ended up dying from an overdose years and years later.
Wow.
It's crazy.
At my high school, I think there was some weed, but that's it. Like we were not, I wouldn't even know where to find that stuff.
It's crazy because where I lived in Belmore.
Well, you lived in the city, right?
I didn't live in the city. I lived in the suburbs.
Okay.
I lived in a town that was like 40 minutes outside of Manhattan. But during the early 70s, a lot of my friends' older brothers and sisters, there was a certain group of them, they were junkies. So we got to witness how disgusting it was.
Yeah,
and
right.
We were like, oh God, there's no way in the world like I would ever do that. Seeing people nodding out and like, oh, it was gross. But a couple of my friends, Ralph was one of them. Wow. And then I had another friend whose brother was a junkie and it was like, there's no way in the world that he would ever do it. And then he started doing it. It was like, it was so easy to get.
That's
and they
weird.
They used to go into the city and cop all the time. CBGB's was a big hangout.
Oh, sure. CBGB's was a great rock club. Downtown, right?
Yeah, it was down in like, Houston, it was in
way down.
A really, really shitty area. And when CBGB's first started, that's when the New York Dolls were very, very famous.
Right. Didn't Lou Reed?
Lou Reed was part of that crowd. Blondie, Mink DeVille. And so Johnny Thunder was in the Dolls, right?
Yeah.
So I'm living with this guy Ralph. We have an apartment in Queens, and the phone rings one day, and I was like, "Hey, is Ralph there?" And I was like, "No, he's not here. Who is it?" And he says, "Oh, Johnny." It was Johnny Thunder. Ralph had become friends with him because he copped. He used to go down to buy CBGBs and get dope, and there was no kind of like hierarchy. If you were a junkie, you were a junkie. You could be like hanging out with Lou Reed and be doing heroin because that you had this common bond. So Johnny Thunder used to call my house looking for him. That's
crazy. Yeah, I mean that was never, maybe there was weed. I don't remember. I remember this. All the kids who smoked, which was viewed as just the worst thing in the world by my mom, they wore jean jackets, and we called them the burnouts.
Right.
So I was not allowed to wear a jean jacket ever. Like I always thought it would be cool to have a jean jacket, cool denim. Nope, not allowed to, because then you're a burnout. So actually wearing the jean jacket was as bad as smoking the cigarette.
It's so true. Like jean jackets, and I remember army jackets.
Yeah.
My boyfriend, my boyfriend Roy had an army jacket.
Yep.
And it was cool.
Yeah.
But to my parents and the fact that they, none of these guys were Jewish. So that was like, my parents like went crazy. I was laughing with a friend of my sister's because when I was growing up, and I think we've talked about this before, but my father was like, if you don't date a Jewish guy, like forget it.
Right.
Like you're not going out anymore.
Right.
You have to be with someone Jewish. And ironically, the one guy that I dated who was Jewish that I stayed with for a long time hurt me more than any like Catholic guy I ever went out with. So Kenny. So anyway, So my father, we had a pool table in our basement, and it was like, my house was a big hangout house.
Yes.
So, people would, smoke pot down there and drink. And
oh God.
My father had bought this it was a cue ball, and it was like a trick cue ball.
Okay.
So it was like off center.
Okay.
So after you hit the ball with the cue ball,
yes,
the cue ball wouldn't stop. It just kept on rolling.
Oh, it just kept going. It wouldn't bounce out.
It just kept on rolling on the table. And because everybody was high, we would take the regular cue ball and replace it sometimes. And then if someone was really stoned,
just to mess with somebody,
we'd put the wonky one in, right? So one night, I guess my sister's hanging out with all her mostly non-Jewish friends. And my father opens up the basement door and actually yells down, "Who's not Jewish here?" Oh my God, can you embarrass us more with how awful of a person you are?
Yeah,
that we can't
crazy.
hang out with people that aren't Jewish. Oh man.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean, what's funny about it? You were talking, all your junkie boyfriends. I never smoked weed until I was in my 30s.
Wow.
I never smoked weed until I was in New York.
So were you did you just not have friends that did it, or did you have friends that did it and you just decided, I'm not going to do it?
I had friends who did it, especially in college, but it had my parents ingrained such a stigma about it into my brain that I just wouldn't do it. Now, and then by the time I got to New York, I was like, okay, I'm a grown up. I can make this decision for myself. But yeah, no, it had such a stigma. So I didn't try. And then, I didn't obviously tried it in my 30s, and it's become, part of my life.
So it wasn't until we did the radio show in New York.
100%. Never, ever did I smoke weed.
You were such a pothead when we were in New York.
Correct. I became a pothead. Wait a minute. I was not a pothead.
Oh, what are you talking about? We would smoke pot at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning.
Well, after a hard show.
Well, to us, it was afternoon, but
yeah, I guess I just remember.
I smoked pot with you a lot in New York.
Yeah, no, we did smoke a lot. You're right. I remember I would get every Friday after the show, because, you get to the end of the week and I was just like, oh, exhale. And I would go directly from the show to McDonald's, where I would buy 2 Big Macs, 20-piece chicken McNuggets, 2 large fries, whole bunch of extra hot mustard sauce, a hot fudge sundae, and a baked apple pie, one of those little pie things. So I'd go home, I'd get totally rocked, totally stoned. And then I would eat the entire bag of food. And I mean, I ate all that in one sitting. So that's the way I started every weekend when we were in New York, like every weekend. But I don't remember being a pothead.
I thought you were a bit of a pothead.
Did you?
Because I smoked pot with you a lot. And
yeah, I guess you and I.
And, you know, friends of mine would come and meet me after the show, and we'd smoke pot. And it was like, I can't believe I'm smoking pot at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning.
It had been a long day.
I know, because we were on, in the beginning, we were on the air at 5.
We were on the air. We were on the air from 5 to 10.
Right.
5 hours is just a monster, especially for morning drive. It's unthinkable now. We would not have anybody on the air for longer than 3 hours. 5 hours, there is no way you can sustain the energy and the focus and all the stuff you need to do a show. 3 hours is max, but 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. was a rough slot. So maybe I was a pothead. All right. Well, we didn't get to much beyond Greatest Rockers today, but there were some really good stories. Good junkie talk. Shout out to all
junkie talk, and I help you.
Shout out to all the junkies listening. Hey, I want to make something clear. If you are listening to the show right now on Apple or Spotify, you can also watch it on YouTube. Go to YouTube and search Culture Pop Podcast, and we will pop up. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you can also listen to us in audio form, either at Spotify or at Apple. So there are lots of ways to consume the Culture Pop Podcast now, which I'm excited about.
There's no excuse. There's no excuse not to see us or
now,
hear us.
Have you watched our show on YouTube?
I have.
It is action packed, I think.
It's great, and I love the way it starts. I love the editing of the beginning of it.
Yeah, that, you know what? I'm going to do this.
Was that Milos' idea? Or
yeah, hang on a second. Here's what I'm going to do. I've been saying Milos is our sound engineer, associate producer, makes a lot of the technical stuff here work. So, and last time I shouted him out, we didn't get his name right. So he had I forget if it's a son or daughter, send us a voice link so we know the right way to pronounce it. So I'm going to play that now so we can credit him properly. Milos Jelenkovic. Could you hear that?
I could hear that. No, can I hear it from there? No, I didn't hear it.
You can hear that. Milos Jelenkovic.
And what have you been? We've always saying Milos. What, you've been saying his last name incorrectly?
I apparently said his last name wrong once, so I want to apologize, and I want to thank Milos Jelenkovic for all of his help in getting the show ready for podcast and for YouTube. He's a great guy and does amazing work, and we appreciate him.
You know, we've never met him. We just know him through social media.
Yes.
Right? You've never seen him, right?
I've never seen him.
So the shows that I was absent for.
Yes.
He sent me, I came back from Florida, I guess. And I guess it was a podcast that we haven't aired yet because we can't air it yet.
Oh, it's the Anthony Ramos podcast.
Anthony Ramos was the first one.
He's coming up on June the 5th. We'll release that. He's the star of the Transformers movie.
Okay. So, I got an email from Milos, saying that, welcome back.
Yeah.
And he said it put a big smile on his face to hear me on the show.
Oh, that's nice.
Which I thought was very sweet.
We did. We missed you, Sue. It's not the Culture Pop Podcast without Mason and Sue. Don't forget, subscribe to the podcast everywhere. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us a rating and a review. We love that. Sue, great seeing you.
Great seeing you.
We will see everybody next time on the Culture Pop Podcast.